Reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
The apostle said to the Lord, "Increase our faith." The Lord replied, "If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you would say to this mulberry tree, 'Be uprooted and planted in the sea,' and it would obey you. Who among you would say to your servant, who has just come in from plowing or tending sheep in the field, 'Come here immediately and take your place at table'? Would he not rather say to him, 'Prepare something for me to eat. Put on your apron and wait on me while I eat and drink. You may eat and drink when I am finished'? Is he grateful to that servant because he did what he was commanded? So should it be with you. When you have done all you have been commanded, say, 'We are unprofitable servants. We have done what we were obliged to do.'" The Gospel of the Lord. Tough way to end a gospel passage, isn't it? It's like, thanks for the encouragement, Jesus. We are unprofitable servants. We have done what we were obliged to do. That's actually one of my favorite verses, individual verses in the scriptures. But I was reflecting on it earlier in the week, and the person I was talking to really didn't like what I had to say. So after last week's ruffling of feathers, I figure I won't preach on that. Do something different. But it is a weird gospel, you know. If faith, even the size of a mustard seed, can command a mulberry tree to be uprooted and planted in the sea, then every Christian in the history of the church has had entirely inadequate faith. Have you ever seen a mustard seed? It's not much bigger than a grain of salt. You know, you sneeze and they're all gone. And maybe it's true that, you know, every Christian has had inadequate faith. But you would think that out of all of the saints over the course of the church's history, at least one of them would have had faith the size of a mustard seed. And yet we are not aware of a single account of any Christian at any point in history ever commanding a mulberry tree to be uprooted and cast into the sea. If Jesus was trying to communicate that faith would make us able to do what seemed impossible, why wouldn't he have used an example of something that would actually be done in Christian history? Like someone being brought back to life, or miraculously healed, or an entire continent being converted to Christianity. Those things seem impossible, but Christians actually did them. So the passage invites the question, did Jesus use an absurd example of uprooting and replanting an entire grown tree into the midst of the sea, something he knew no Christian would ever do? Or is it possible there's a deeper meaning? I think this may be another case where our modern mind is putting us at a disadvantage to hear the gospel. You know, put back on your Catholic imagination and see the passage in a new way. Often in Christian writings, a tree is associated with the cross, and where the cross is, there is Jesus. So the mulberry tree can be associated with Jesus himself. Now, when mulberries begin to form, they're really a pure white color, which can symbolize the purity of Jesus, his perfect love and relationship with the Father. And when the mulberries ripen, they eventually run with a bright blood red juice, symbolizing Jesus' passion and death. And what's further is the Jews often associated the sea with chaos. And for them, the passage really kind of refers to the chaos of the Gentile world. So what we end up with is that the mulberry tree is Jesus in his mission and passion, death, and resurrection, planted in the midst of the chaos of the world. And really, it makes quite a bit of sense. Because why would Jesus, the one who says that he can do nothing apart from the Father, and we can do nothing apart from him, give us the impression that with just a hint of faith, we can command a grown tree to be uprooted and cast into the sea? That sort of thinking doesn't convey dependence on Jesus, but self-sufficiency. So what does it mean for us? It means that even with a hint of faith, we can call on the power of Jesus Christ in his passion, death, and resurrection to be planted in the midst of whatever chaos we are in. And firstly, that's the chaos of our own lives, the lack of peace or order that we have, the disorder that sin has brought to our individual lives, sometimes the chaos of our own families. So to start, with faith, the mulberry tree can be commanded to be replanted in our own lives. The saving power of God, through the dying and rising of Jesus, can take root and stabilize the life we live. But secondly, and most particularly in this gospel today, Jesus is prompting us to plant the power of Christ in whatever area of this chaotic world we live in, wherever we are, in schools, in the political sphere, in the workplace. The witness of the power of the resurrection in our own lives, living in a pattern of self-sacrifice, and interceding for those around us is the replanting of the fully grown mulberry tree in the midst of the sea. This year's election cycle certainly is a chaotic area, and one in which we need to command the mulberry tree to be replanted. That the peace and power of Christ may prevail, so that at the very least we may have civil discourse regarding the issues and candidates. But seeing the spiritual meaning of this passage doesn't make it particularly easy. It doesn't take away the challenge completely, because to command the mulberry tree to be uprooted and replanted in the chaos of our lives requires that we want to allow Jesus to change us, that we might be transformed by grace into Jesus himself. So along the way, it's helpful to have support, to talk with and learn with others who are living their lives in an intentional way to spread the good news, to replant the mulberry tree in the sea. One way that our parish is helping to provide that sort of support is through small groups that are currently forming, and they'll begin the beginning of next week. You can find more information and sign up for a group on our parish website. Initially, the focus is going to be along the lines of learning and sharing faith. And it's a great opportunity to walk the way of discipleship with others in the community, and to command that the mulberry tree be planted in your own life and wherever you are in the world, to gain the support to do so. You know, there's one more thing about mulberry trees that Jesus doesn't necessarily allude to. But mulberry trees kind of spread like crazy. The berries fall to the ground and they take root readily. I find this point encouraging, because as we command the tree to be uprooted and planted in the chaos, the power of Christ's death and resurrection is transformational and often contagious. So let one tree take root and nurture it, and you can be assured that over time you'll have a growth of mulberries taking over the chaos.